I am so excited that another series I have had on my TBR shelf since like early March, early April, finally have read it, and it was worth the wait. It was awesome. Hello friends, happy Friday, so very excited that you're here. We are continuing the Villainess event very strong, though I am featuring a title that you guys didn't vote for, but I have been planning because I know I promised being Queenie, and I feel very confident that I also promised Danielle, my friend, or both of my friends, and they both are the biggest fans of this series, and so I know I promised them that I would eventually review this, and so I had sort of been waiting for what I don't know, but then when the Villainess event came, I said, this is the perfect time, this is the perfect opportunity. So today I am talking about the manga, because it does have a light novel, but the manga, The Condemned Villainess, goes back in time and aims to become the ultimate villain. Right now there's 4 volumes out. I did that weird. 4 volumes out, with volume 5 coming out at the end of this month, and your girl wants it. Your girl wants it. This was a very engaging read that has stunning, absolutely beautiful covers. I do agree with people that have said that this series does seem underrated, because I really don't know many people that talk about it. I mean, I know my friend Being Queenie and Danielle that they talk a lot about it, but outside of them, there's maybe 2 other people that I know that have read either the manga or the light novel, or have read both of them, and we're going to talk about it because I definitely think it is a very wonderful series. I tagged, I think, Being Queenie on my Discord server with very strong praise, and I think even in a tweet on Twitter that I told Danielle the same thing. It was the highest compliment I could think of giving this series, though specifically Claudia. So let's go ahead and talk about what this series is about, in case if you're not familiar with it. As I said, it does have a light novel. If you prefer light novels, I don't know how many volumes, but they are published by, they're published by 7 Seas, but do we have a audiobook of this as well? I feel like it did get an audiobook license, I feel like last year, so, but I haven't seen any news about when it's coming out and everything. But anyway, yeah, so about this series, it's about our main female lead. Her name is Claudia, and while here she is in the body of a teenager, she actually was an adult. But yeah, she was actually an adult because, well, I guess rewinding a little bit. So when the series first opens up, we see that Claudia, as a young woman, is being banished, more or less. Her family is giving her off to the Covenant, and her fiance, who is the crowned prince, is like, I'm ready to get off the engagement. I don't want you. And the thing is, I guess she's on her way to the Covenant, but yeah, she finds herself at a brothel instead. And that is where we get to know her originally, not as a teen, but as an adult who has been in this brothel for X amount of years. And she was betrayed, because we find out that her half-sister is the person that was behind all of this. Like, she has the most sinister smile right here, telling her, serves you right. And that is when Claudia is at the brothel and is working there that she realizes that she was the biggest fool. And so a very wonderful woman, her name is Helen, that she befriends when she is there, right here, that she befriends and sort of teaches her everything and just is her big sister at the brothel. She ends up passing away, and then a few years later, Claudia, our female lead, also passes away. But before both of them do, they basically say, you fickle God, give this woman happiness, give me a second chance. And that prayer is answered. She wakes up in the body of her much younger self on the day that her mother's funeral, because her mother passed away. I'm not really sure if we ever find out why. But Claudia then realizes, oh, I have been given this second chance, and I am going to make the most of it. If her half-sister is a villainess, Claudia vows to herself, she will be an even bigger ultimate villainess than her half-sister could ever be. And so she decides to gather these allies, do things differently, and that is where we have this series, this story. It was so much different than I expected. I feel like I sort of pushed off reading this series for a really long time, because I thought it was going to be a revenge series. And I've shared before that revenge series are very much hit or miss for me. I'm usually not a fan of them. Like, I can handle small doses, but having a full arching story just centered only on revenge is a lot harder for me to really get into the story. And so when I started this, because here hearing that she basically gets a second chance and decides she's going to be the ultimate villainess, I'm like, okay, she's going to use everything at her disposal to change everything. As the series is starting out, it sort of does feel that way, that is the route it's going to go, because when she's at her mother's grave, she starts crying. Like right here, she starts sobbing over her mother's grave. She tells her brother here, where is he? Virgil, if I can find him, right here. She tells her brother that she's gonna be a good girl now, because before that she threw tantrums, she was always yelling, and I guess even before in like the first timeline, she was not a good girl, for the lack of a better word, as Claudia says here. So she has a genuine change after her mother's passing. I thought was gonna really use her brother, because look, he's even crying here and he's promising that he will be her sole protector and protector, because her father at this scene, her father, okay, he ends up leaving to go to his mistress on the day of his wife's funeral. I said, what in tarnation? And because of her past life, Claudia knows that her father's going to bring her half-sister and his mistress into the household. So she has this year to change things and gather allies, which leads me back to say, I thought she was going to just genuinely use these people to help herself. And to a degree, yes, but her feelings and her emotions really come in. When I mentioned Helen, the woman at the brothel from earlier, it was a very key moment that as Claudia is growing up and getting older, she vows to herself that she's going to go find Helen and get her out from ever entering the brothel, because we get this backstory of exactly how Helen came to be in the place that she was. I was just so... Like, here's a good example right here of when she's greeting Helen in this timeline, this new one, with such joy and happiness, because again, she vowed she would never let the ones that she loves, that she would protect them with everything she has. And I thought maybe that's just going to be with Helen only because of the memories she has, but no, with her brother, we start seeing these changes and how she really starts to show affection for him, and he shows affection for her. In fact, if I had a favorite male lead character, and while I know I've told Being Queenie that my favorite volume cover is volume 5 because I love that green, after reading volume 2 is my favorite cover. I love these two as siblings so much. It was such a special part to this series to have genuine affection between them. Like we see, because there's sort of like a time skip a little bit in there, and when we see post time skip, when she is now going to the academy, she is 16 I believe at that time, we see she makes it known that she knows that her brother deeply cares for her. And I said, yes, and she cares for him. She trusts him. I love that so much. If there's any complaint I had about the series, it's I don't get enough of them as siblings on page enough. And I love when you start seeing things change in the beginning of volume, I'm pretty sure it was volume 1, because, yeah, it was, because when the half-sister comes, what's made this series stand out for me, sorry, I know there's so much, I'm like going everywhere, I'm getting excited, but what made this series stand out for me is it reminds me of Penelope, my best girl from Villains Are Destined to Die. And that is the highest compliment I can give this series. Now, this series is different than that series, okay? I'm not saying it for the series being the same, the characters being the same. What I'm saying specifically is the emotions that I feel when I read Villains Are Destined to Die and how I feel for Penelope. I felt those same feelings when reading this series for Claudia. Because when the half-sister, when she comes on page and there is a moment where that half-sister is ready to just dig in deep for Claudia, and what I mean is she is ready to take her out. There is this fear right here, right here. There was a dance that happened basically, and Claudia was not trying to show off, but she was encouraged to show what it means to dance in case her could help her half-sister become a better dancer. So she's like, how mean, and she's saying all these things about Claudia wanted to show her up, wanted to be a show-off, and when her brother comes in, he is like, hey, what's going on here? And the next moment made me tear up because you see this fear on Claudia's face, and I felt like she was so human. She reminded me of Penelope in that sense because, man, it gives me goosebumps thinking about it, because the fear that she has was so real and tangible. And I was like, Claudia, girl, no, like I want to go through the pages and protect her because she's like, this is happening just like it did in the first timeline. And there was at least 2 other instances of that where we're seeing this fear that made her a very compelling heroine because yes, she seems on her A game and she is mature for the age that she is. So I feel like she does carry herself differently, but it was like everything that she has, I don't want to say fronted, but she does appear to be very well kept together and everything figured out. But in this moment, she did not. Everything she felt she had worked for that year, she felt it was just crumbling in front of her eyes. I did not expect to get very emotional during that scene. Honestly, I wasn't even really expecting for it to happen the way that it did. And I don't know if I should share the outcome of that, so I'll just share this little part here. But it was one of my favorite scenes because I feel like there's very few Villainess series that give me that same emotion that Villains Are Destined to. I mean, it's one of my all-time favorite manhwa series, all-time favorite series in general, because of the emotional roller coaster I'm on, and that you can feel this genuine sense of fear for these characters who seem like they've got it all put together. Or in Penelope's case, I don't necessarily feel she has it all put together the same way Claudia does, but she is out there willing to risk her life time and time again, where there's so many times that I'm terrified. I'm genuinely terrified for a fictional character that their life is going to be snuffed out. And while I didn't feel that was going to be the case for Claudia here, I did feel like she's going to end up in the Covenant. She's going to have everybody turn against her. And it was not the outcome. And I was overwhelmed with my feelings for that because I was so caught off guard with that. I mean, honestly, Claudia's journey was very interesting to me. Now, I'm going to say, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, there are a lot of, because she was a worker at the brothel, I wouldn't say that you see her in like scandalous scenes or poses, but she does know how to use her body. And I was very concerned, forgive me, Claudia, I was really concerned she was going to be a loose woman. That's the only way I could think of to say it. I trusted my friends. I trusted them. And I've talked about how Danielle has given me recommendations I love, Tiger and Dragon being one of them. I was afraid, though, that I would not have this emotional connection with Claudia. I'm a very timid person. I'm a shy person. And while sometimes I do feel like Claudia's actions made me a tad bit uncomfortable, she is a beautiful young woman who's very confident in herself overall. And so I found it interesting to see how she carried herself, not in a way where she's trying to get all the guys' attention, because we see even later on that no, she does what she needs to do, and in the sense of like, say, she might get very close to a certain guy where she smushes herself up to him, if you get what I mean, but she is very respectful. So I was just blown away by that, and I felt like I ate my worries in that sense because Claudia is just this strong and fierce woman who is consistently, time and time again, in these volumes, we see where at the back of her mind, she's always thinking of how her half-sister has the upper hand. In any of these situations where she is being condemned and she's being framed and she looks like the fool, she's always thinking, this is it. And so I was very surprised that she, as I said before, she may seem like she has her act together, and I feel again that she does. I don't mean that as a diss to Claudia, but she's human. I was totally not expecting how much I would come to look up to her, that I'm like, girl, get in the rescue party right beside Penelope. I'm gonna keep you girls safe, like take her under my wing as a reader and just protect her. She goes, and I think I was trying to say that earlier, is through these 4 volumes, I love seeing Claudia's emotional growth. Now, there were characters that sort of bothered me, like Sylvester. We'll get to him. He is the crown prince here, but the way that, like, even with her half-sister, most people would say, well, you're gonna hate that other sibling because that's not your real sibling. I mean, yes, by blood they have the half, but due to the situation where there's cheating involved and there's a mistress, most people are gonna say Claudia is in the right to bully her half-sister. But at least 2 times, we see Claudia tell somebody saying, I don't hate her. It's not her fault. it's my father's. And I was very fascinated that she was able to think that way, that she never, in all of her schemes, never once thought, I want to see the downfall of my half-sister for all the crazy things she's doing. Claudia never once thinks this. And it was such a shift or change of, girl, nobody would fault you, but yet you're not doing the one thing everybody's encouraging you to do. It spoke so much of her character. And even at the end, when Claudia decides, I'm going to fight back in my own way and we are going to end this, she still doesn't have ill will towards this half-sister. Mind blown, friends. I'm mind blown. So Claudia was a very engaging and lovely heroine to follow. Seeing her have more confidence, seeing her, I believe it was at the beginning, yeah, volume 3, where she has a breakdown and she admits her fears, her concerns, and her worries to the one person I never imagined that she would share this with. That she's so vulnerable, but she uses that moment, that breakdown, to really think, why is she dwelling on why her half-sister hates her, why her half-sister would go through these things to see her demise? While she doesn't have this clear answer, there's this beautiful 2-page spread that I'm not going to share with you because it'd be spoilers, but she has this breakthrough and she realizes that things are different this timeline, in the sense of maybe there's the same scenarios, the same things. It's not like oh, Claudia changed one thing and the whole life is different. No, things are still sort of the same, but her decisions are different. When she realizes what's different for her this timeline is that this time she has not only allies, genuine allies that she's not using as pawns, but she genuinely cares for these people, and in turn, they genuinely care for her well-being, but that she can trust those allies. And when she has that moment, that turning moment, y'all, it was incredible to see the payoff. I don't really want to say it, but to see how everything unfolds in the end of this arc. 5 out of 5 stars. It was absolute perfection. And even when all these things are happening and we're seeing finally the downfall and also the rising of Claudia here, we see a key moment where she's like, I'm a fool. And there was this fantastic quote, I'm pretty sure it was by Sylvester. He's like, all humans are foolish. We make mistakes, but we have the power to set things right, which I feel like that is a key theme for at least what would be the first light novel in the manga, because it goes up to the halfway point of volume 4 and then it's going to be getting a brand new arc, brand new light novel. I bring all this up about saying all humans are foolish because I would not say Claudia is a fool. She says that she's a fool, and yes, she made a very interesting choice in volume 4 where it could seem she is foolish, but I just felt that she was human and that she did make mistakes. She did have these worries that she was struggling with, and even at times where I think it's in volume 3, yeah, where something happens and she's getting framed once again by her half-sister and she's like, how am I going to get out of this? And then somebody comes to her rescue, her aid, and says, hey, wait a second, let's do this investigation because things that your half-sister is saying don't line up. Even then, she was human because she gets really emotional. And so I feel like rather than saying that she is a fool, that when she calls herself that, I genuinely feel like, girl, you are human. And it was really amazing to see the confidence in her by the end. Even though I will admit I was a little bit scared when we have this final declaration by Claudia, because I'm like, okay, look at this page, y'all. Look at this page. And she looks beautiful, but she's intimidating because she's saying, I'm not there yet. I strive to become a still greater villainess. And I feel like she's already there, but she has these internal declarations of how she's going to protect her family. It was an amazing journey of seeing all of this unfold in this story as it's going up and down, so up and down. Not even when we're talking about the romantic stuff, just the storytelling itself and how Claudia truly, time and time again, she is rising up in every situation, everything that's thrown at her way. I was so happy for her, not because she's coming out on top and beating her rival, but that someone who had these fears and these worries at the beginning of the series and be able to, I feel like, really bloom and be herself was very, very powerful, very incredible, and it's just something, part of this series I genuinely never expected. I honestly sort of feel that if you were to read the series, you could, now I haven't read past this or any of the light novels, so I honestly don't know what to expect, what to anticipate. Right now I just plan to be manga only, but I feel like if you just wanted to read the volume 1 light novel, but in manga form, you could read up to the halfway point of volume 4, really enjoy this as a self-contained story. It was perfect, like, by the end. I mean, I honestly feel like the story itself and Claudia, 5 stars, 10 out of 10, honestly, for Claudia. She's amazing. But the story itself, I would say be 5. But I guess it'd be a good point to go into the struggle came in with the romance, because Sylvester here, he's the crown prince, and he is a very interesting character. And it's funny because I told my friends, I was like, right now, meet him as a kid in the beginning of volume 1, and then we see him again at the beginning of volume 2, and he is now 16, and he is so pushy. I was like, Lord help me. I was like, this man need to back up. I said, this is why, I was like, it's heroes like you that make me team Villainess only, and not for the whole ship. But don't worry, I'll say more about that in a second. But the way he just, he was just so pushy. That was my number one issue, is I was like trying to figure out what to say here, because the ultimate thing is, maybe it'll be the best way to start first, is I did not like him at the beginning. I was very leery of him, and I said, I am just here for Claudia. And well, and Virgil too. I was here for him too, but I'm here for Claudia. I ain't here for you and all these shenanigans that you try to do, which they really weren't many, but he is very teasing, and then you have these really scary moments where I'm like, Claudia, red alert, red alert, like, get to safety. I'm not really sure if you're safe with this man. But I mentioned that with Villainess and I did not like Callisto in the beginning. I very much had the sirens blaring in my mind for several volumes. It took a lot of warming up to his character before I liked him. I feel like that sort of happened with Sylvester. I actually was rereading the volume this morning. Here's one of the moments, like we got the hand slam here and him sort of entrapping her on this pillar and him saying, I want to see the real you, because things were pretty tense up before this and Claudia's freaking out internally, but she's putting up this front, and that's where we start seeing where he's like, oh, I'm pretty jealous that you would leave me to go get your half-sister whom you don't even really seem to like. What's going on? And he's like, you know, I'll stay out of this whole sister thing. I want you to aim to love me and sort of make the distance between us a lot smaller, rather than just being two strangers, and that we can eventually aim to be engaged. And I was like, bro, we going too fast for this. This is your first meeting since you were kids. Like, there's too much. But I thought it interesting that I think my friend said he's a yandere, I think. And so that in itself is pretty hit or miss for me. But when the first time I read it, the redeeming point a little bit for him is we're still having the same moment as about a show. We're still having the same moment where he is engaging Claudia, but he has, for a man that doesn't express any feelings or emotions on his face, and Claudia even calls him a doll, that when he expresses desperation and neediness for Claudia, I was very surprised, because he definitely acts all put together and you do not know what he's thinking during all of this, because he is the crown prince. He has these bridal candidates. He's supposed to give each one equal treatment, and he's not supposed to, you know, favor one of them, but he is very much favoring Claudia, and he tells her, think of a way for us to meet where I don't have to consider fairness. Do whatever you got to do, because he wants to have some comfort shown by her to him. And that's when he's like, you know, do what you need to do to make it happen, where we have a clandestine meeting, and he doesn't have to think about those other bridal candidates because he's only got eyes for Claudia. And if I was getting more warmed up to Sylvester's character, I've seen this desperation because it's so at odds with how he acts as a whole. I was even more thrown off when he is basically at a very tense moment that is very emotionally packed, he's over here saying, you know, if she's causing you such issues, why don't I eliminate her? And pulling out his sword, implying, you know, he could take her out. And I said, okay. I said, I see you in Claudia's corner. I said, I don't condone violence, but we might have something going here. We might not be on the same page we were in the beginning, where I'm like, I don't even want you on page kind of thing. I will not hate read because I love the manga, but it was definitely like, I ain't here for you and you're just whatever. I'm like, we're just here for Claudia. But then this moment came and I really felt myself changing towards him, because as much as he teases her, and even at times I felt like he totally scared her before that scene, not like in a violent way like that, but with something he said that really triggered and upset Claudia, that I was like, this guy is not sincere with his feelings. Like, he does not really care for Claudia as a person. He's just sort of using her. Like, I personally felt that for a long time, actually. Feels sort of bad. So when it comes out that he really is an actual ally to her and also loves her, I was sort of thrown for a loop, and I'm like, okay, we're actually seeing this much more, for me, okay, much more interesting side of you, that just not having me concerned for Claudia's well-being being in your presence. And honestly, I felt really bad for him in volume 4, of when things are going according to this plan that him and Claudia have set. He still does part of the plan that really didn't need to be done. And I was like, he just did this. And that's where it went into Claudia feeling like a fool because she runs off. And I was like, oh my goodness. But let me tell you, when it got to the romance part in this volume, in the first half, that romance was everything. The way the paneling was, the way the art was drawn, the feelings that were coming out, the things that were being said, was like everything I have been wanting. Doesn't excuse some of the things he did, but everything I've been wanting for their relationship, I saw. And that's when I felt I became Team Sylvester. Are the things that he does that bother me? Yes. Like when he forces himself upon Claudia in the carriage later on in this volume. Yes. I was like, you know, like, I'm not happy and condoning all of your actions, but the coolest thing is you do see a gradual change in his character as well. Like, you're seeing that character development the same way we saw in Claudia, is because after that moment, he apologizes and he says, I didn't quite use my words right. And I said, what? Oh, like, he apologized and he's realizing, so he's starting to change where he is not admitting, but he is using his words better of why he does some of the certain actions that he does towards Claudia. And I said, I'm on board. I'm here for this. I felt myself getting into Prince Sylvester, and I never expected that. Like, I became invested into his character as well, which leaves me very conflicted on where the next volume is going to go, because we meet this new character that is bringing a lot of nostalgia, a lot of interesting feelings for Claudia that we haven't seen expressed quite in this way thus far. I like his character, the way he looks, but I don't want it to interfere with the romance. And I never expected that getting to the end of this volume that I would feel that way. In fact, originally when I first read it, and it's why I reread it this morning, or at least like did a quick skim through, I wanted to clarify my own feelings, because when I finished this volume, it felt like a 5-star read, but I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads because of how sad I was that it felt we were having this love triangle. Now, I do not feel it's going to be a love triangle, because Claudia has made her feelings known. She's even made a vow, and she's like, you know how serious I keep these. So I don't feel anything romantic is going to come out of this moving forward outside of her and Sylvester's relationship. But I feel it's going to be very, very complicated when Claudia has these memories of this young man, of him and who he was in her previous life. I didn't want him to make a scene. I didn't want him to make a comeback. I'm like, excuse me, we had this epic ending. Can you please respectfully leave? Despite that you have a great smile, you seem like a really earnest and kind guy, though I do not like his right-hand man, so to speak. No. I ain't worried about the guy, but I am worried about that person. That person gonna cause problems, I have no doubt. So I was very surprised by my reaction to that. And so leading to say, when I reread this morning, I didn't feel that same sadness. I do feel a lot more interested of where this is gonna go, because I trust Claudia and I trust that their relationship is gonna be fine. I think it's gonna be hard for her, and I do think it's gonna be challenging, but I don't feel like she's going to be like, you know what? I don't want you anymore, and I'm going for this guy. Like, I definitely don't feel it's gonna happen. If that did, honestly, I'd be really heartbroken because I'm like, I finally just got on that Sylvester train, and now we're having this happen. Like, please, no, don't do this to me. So I'll be curious to see what comes from that. I hope that I like it, and that's part of why I mentioned is somebody actually left a review on Goodreads expressing similar feelings, and that's why I said that I don't know what's to come, but if you just wanted to read it as the volumes that it is for just volume 1 of the light novel, you could realistically do that. There were several other characters that I super enjoyed, like I'll just briefly mention, like this guy here, Brian, super sweet, total sweetheart. Very, very great. And then of course we have this one works better for the half sister. Woman is unhinged. Honestly, I didn't hate her guts, but when we see the way she treats her mom, oh, no, no, ma'am. I was like, get her off the page. Get her off the page. So I wouldn't say I was rooting for her downfall, but I certainly didn't feel bad when we see the results of her downfall because she treated her mom like dirt. And I'm like, absolutely not. We are not here for that. No, we are not. And while I know he's on the back, I do want to say this character here, Tristan, I loved his character. And when he goes in unhinged mode in volume 4, I said, bro, I see you. I was like, that's what's up. That was cool. He looks so cool. Probably really bad to say, but he looked really great. I liked him a lot. His character was just great to read. There's a short story, I don't know if it was in volume 3 about him and the prince, but that was nice. That was a lovely little story. I enjoyed all of them, though there was a bonus. I think it was this one. Yes, there was a bonus manga that was from the brother's point of view, and I loved it. It is one of my favorite parts of the entire manga because I love his character and I love seeing his love for his sister. Highlight of the manga for me is a favorite thing just from all 4 volumes. And then, oh yeah, and then Helen, that was there as another character, which I know I briefly mentioned her. I really liked her character a lot, and I loved seeing her shine in this timeline. It was beautiful and satisfying and very, very, very heartwarming. We got a short story with Claudia and Helen in the first timeline. It was very moving seeing how their happiness then, but also seeing this new happiness in this new timeline. There we go. It took me a second to really think about what I was trying to say there. But yeah, as you can see, hopefully overall, I really enjoyed the manga, especially Claudia. I really loved her. She's definitely in those favorite villainesses and just how she surprised me. And I am excited to see where her story and where her journey goes. She's fantastic. That character growth and how she is fighting and overcoming fear and trauma and realizing she's not alone was something that I deeply, deeply love. So I'm looking forward to volume 5. I would love to know if you've read this series. What did you think of it? Are you interested in checking it out? Who are some of your favorite villainesses? Just let me know all the things. And thank you so much for being Queenie. I'm going to say earlier for gifting me this volume because y'all, I will tell you, if you have volume 3 but you don't have volume 4, go get volume 4 before you read volume 3. You will want it. You will need it because the cliffhangers weren't super intense, but the cliffhanger at that one and knowing what's coming, you're going to want answers immediately. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And thank you so much for watching. Bye!